When your phone rings at 3 in the morning, it's never good news. I went to bed around midnight after processing photos from a local festival in Bakersfield. The heat didn't let up even at night, typical California summer. Lily was already asleep, turned away to the wall. Lately we barely talked before bed, but I chalked it up to exhaustion. She worked at a medical lab. I was running around town with my camera, catching shots for the local newspaper and several online publications. 4 years of marriage, a 3-year-old daughter named Megan sleeping in the next room, a house we'd been slowly turning into a home. Everything seemed stable, predictable. The phone call tore through the silence. I grabbed my phone, afraid something had happened to Megan. My hands were shaking as I looked at the screen. Larry? I heard the familiar voice of Carolina, my former colleague who now worked as an administrator at one of the hotels in San Diego. We'd met about 5 years ago at some press conference, stayed friends. She was one of those people you could count on, honest to a fault. Carl? What happened? I stepped out into the hallway so I wouldn't wake Lily. Listen, I'm really sorry to call so late, but I don't know how to say this. I saw your wife today at our hotel. She wasn't alone. My heart started beating faster, but I still didn't understand. Hotels have conferences, work trips, team meetings. There could be a dozen explanations. Maybe it was a work trip? Some conference. Larry, she checked in with a man. I definitely recognized her. We met at your birthday 2 years ago, remember? You introduced us. I wouldn't call if I wasn't absolutely sure. The next words from Carolina I heard as if through water. She described the man, tall, athletic, dark hair. They were laughing at the reception desk. He was holding her waist. The way couples do. The way we used to. I thought you should know. I'm sorry. I know this is terrible timing, but I couldn't not tell you. You're a good person, Larry. I thanked her and froze in the hallway, staring at the photos on the wall. Our wedding 4 years ago. Lily pregnant with Megan, glowing and beautiful. Our road trips together. Everything seemed so real then. So permanent. I remembered how she told me about her first marriage, how her ex-husband had destroyed her trust, how scared she was to open up again. I'd been patient, understanding, everything she needed. And now this. Returning to the bedroom, I stared at her back under the thin blanket. She was breathing peacefully. No nightmares, no guilt disturbing her sleep. I thought about waking her up, demanding answers right then. But something stopped me. I needed to think. I needed to be sure. Carolina was trustworthy, but people make mistakes. Maybe it was someone who looked like Lily. Maybe there was an explanation I couldn't see yet. The next morning I acted normal. Lily made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, Megan's favorite. We got our daughter ready for daycare together, the usual morning routine. I watched Lily closely. She was calm, smiling at Megan, kissing me goodbye before leaving for work. Not a single sign of guilt or anxiety. She was either innocent or an incredible actress. I didn't know which possibility scared me more. I had a few days to figure out a plan. I couldn't just walk up and say, "Someone told me you were in San Diego with some guy." I needed evidence. Precise, irrefutable proof. The kind of thing that leaves no room for explanations or excuses. Through Carolina, I found out they'd registered under the surname Lewis. A quick search on social media gave nothing. Lewis was too common a name. But then I remembered that a few months ago, Lily had suddenly gotten into fitness. She joined a gym on the outskirts of town, even though there was a perfectly decent one near our house. She said they had better equipment there. At the time, I thought it was great. She'd been talking about getting back in shape after Megan was born, and I encouraged her. Now that explanation seemed hollow. I drove to that gym with a photo of Lily on my phone. The administrator, a young guy named Dennis, initially didn't want to tell me anything about clients. Privacy policies, he said. Professional ethics. But when I showed him Lily's photo and explained the situation, adding a few bills, he softened. Money talks, especially to someone making minimum wage at a gym. Yeah, she often trains with one guy. Lewis. He's a regular client here. Deals in used cars, always shows up in different vehicles. They've been working out together for about 3 months now. Maybe longer, I'm not sure. Describe him. The description matched what Carolina had given. Dennis even showed me security camera footage. The quality wasn't perfect, grainy black and white, but I could see Lily and this Lewis laughing by the equipment, how he was helping her with exercises, how their hands touched longer than necessary. How they looked at each other. The footage showed them arriving separately but always timing it so they'd be there at the same time. They'd work out for an hour, sometimes longer, then leave within minutes of each other. Do they always come together? I asked. No, but they coordinate. I've noticed the pattern. She'll text while she's here and then he shows up 10 minutes later. Or vice versa. They're not subtle about it, honestly. I just thought, well, I didn't know she was married. She doesn't wear a ring when she comes here. That detail hit me like a punch. She took off her wedding ring for these meetings. I asked Dennis to notify me when they were both at the gym. A few more bills made him my informant. I felt dirty doing it, paying people for information about my wife, but what choice did I have? Trust was already gone. Now I needed facts. At home, I continued acting like nothing had happened. Lily didn't notice anything unusual. We discussed where to go this summer with Megan. She told me about work, about new tests they had to learn. I listened and thought, how can you lie so easily to someone you live with, someone you supposedly love? How do you compartmentalize your life like that? Was I so easy to deceive? A week later, Dennis texted, both at the gym. I drove over and photographed them through the window. My professional camera allowed quality shots from a distance. They really were just working out, but the way they looked at each other said more than any words. There was intimacy there, familiarity, inside jokes. The kind of connection that takes time to build. I watched them for 40 minutes, taking photos from different angles. At one point, he put his hand on her lower back while spotting her on the squat rack. She looked up at him and smiled. That smile, I recognized it. It was the same smile she used to give me when we first started dating. The smile that said, "You make me happy." Seeing it directed at someone else felt like watching my life through someone else's eyes. The next step was finding someone at the hotel who could confirm their visits. Through Carolina, I got in touch with a housekeeper named Thad, a man nearing retirement who'd worked at the hotel for 20 years and had seen everything. We met at a cafe a few blocks from the hotel. For the right price, I can tell you a lot, he said, stirring his coffee slowly. His eyes were sympathetic, like he'd been through this before. Maybe he had. I paid. He told me that Lily and Louis had been to the hotel at least 6 times in the last 3 months. Always the same room, always for one night. The last time was exactly when Carolina had seen them. They looked like a couple in love, Thad added. I've seen a lot of those. They never ordered room service, only left in the morning. Professional types, I'd say. They knew how to be discreet. Well, except for the cameras. Nobody thinks about the cameras. I asked him to keep the security footage if there was any. He nodded. I'll put it on a USB drive for you. Give me a couple of days. But listen, buddy, I've seen this story play out 100 times. Whatever you do next, think about your kid first. That's my advice for what it's worth. I needed one more witness, someone who could confirm that Louis really was who he claimed to be. I found the car lot where he worked, a small place on the outskirts of Bakersfield where they resold used cars. I introduced myself as a potential buyer. Louis was there, smiling, talkative, professional. He showed me 3 different vehicles, talked about their features, tried to make small talk. I took several photos supposedly of the cars, but actually of his face. Up close, I could see why Lily might be attracted to him. He was charismatic, confident. The kind of guy who made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. You seem like a guy who knows what he wants, he said to me, grinning. I respect that. Let me know if you want to test drive any of these. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, talking to the man sleeping with my wife, and he had no idea. I wanted to punch him right there, but I kept my composure. Evidence first. Justice later. Now I had proof. What remained was deciding what to do with it. I thought about Megan. About our house. About 4 years of marriage. Lily often talked about how her first husband had destroyed her trust, how she was afraid to open up to someone again. And now she'd become what she feared most. The paradox infuriated me. She told me once, during a particularly vulnerable moment in our early relationship, that she promised herself she'd never become a cheater. That she knew how it felt, knew the damage it caused. She swore she'd be different. But apparently, those promises were meaningless. Or maybe she'd convinced herself this was different somehow. That's what cheaters do, isn't it? They rationalize, justify, create narratives where they're not the villain. But what struck me most was that she continued living as if nothing was happening. She kissed me goodbye, asked how my day went, discussed weekend plans. How do you split your life into parts like that? How do you wake up next to your husband, have breakfast with your daughter, and then drive 2 hours to a hotel to sleep with another man? The logistics alone were impressive in a twisted way. One evening, after Megan fell asleep, I decided to act. Not a confrontation. That would be too simple and predictable. I needed a different approach. I wanted her to understand that I knew. That I'd already been moving pieces while she thought she was safe. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. I used my connections in the media company where I sometimes freelanced. Within 2 days, I transferred most of our joint assets through corporate accounts to which Lily had no access. It was legal. I'd earned the money. It went through my professional contracts. The lawyer assured me everything was clean. I wasn't stealing from her. I was protecting what was mine. Years of work, building a career as a freelance photojournalist, saving for our future. She'd already stolen our marriage. She wouldn't get everything else too. Then I went to a lawyer with all the evidence. Photos, witness statements, hotel security recordings. He spread everything across his desk and studied it carefully, occasionally shaking his head. Open and shut case, he said. You'll get custody of your daughter and most of the property. California is a no-fault state, but with evidence like this, the judge will consider it. Especially for custody decisions. But I didn't want to just file for divorce. I wanted her to understand that I knew. And that I'd already taken action. The secret she'd been keeping wasn't a secret anymore. I wanted her to feel the way I felt, exposed, vulnerable, caught. A week later, I rented a small billboard on the main street of Bakersfield, where the road to her lab passed. On the billboard was a photo of Lily and Louis at the hotel entrance. No captions, no names. Just the photo. Clear enough to recognize, ambiguous enough to avoid legal trouble. Let people draw their own conclusions. She saw it on the second day. She came home pale with wet eyes. I was sitting on the couch, waiting. I'd taken the day off work specifically for this moment. The door opened and she stood there, frozen, staring at me. Larry. She began, but I raised my hand. I know everything. I know about Louis. About the San Diego hotel. About the gym. About every one of your meetings over the last 3 months. Every lie you told me about working late. Every girl's night out, that wasn't. Every time you took off your wedding ring. She fell into a chair, her legs seemingly unable to hold her anymore. I didn't want it to happen like this. But it did happen. You made choices, Lily. Dozens of them. Every time you texted him. Every time you drove to that gym. Every time you got in the car to San Diego. Those were choices. I love you, Larry. I really do. But with him, it was something different. I don't understand how it happened. I promised myself I'd never become like my first husband. And yet you did. I know. I'm ashamed. I've already filed for divorce, I interrupted. The lawyer says the process will be quick. I have all the evidence. Photographs, security footage, witness statements. Your affair is documented from every angle. What about Megan? We'll both still be her parents. But we can't live together anymore. That's done. That ended the moment you checked into that hotel. Actually, no, it ended the moment you deleted his messages, lied about where you were going, took off your ring. She cried. Real tears without theatricality. Maybe she really understood what she'd lost. Or maybe she was just crying for herself for getting caught. I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't care. When did you find out? She asked finally. Does it matter? I need to know. Please. Was it before the billboard? How long have you known? Carolina called me. Weeks ago. She saw you at the hotel. She recognized you. Lily's face changed. Recognition, then horror. Carolina? Your friend Carolina? Oh God. Who else knows? Does it matter? By tomorrow, half of Bakersfield will see that billboard. Your colleagues will see it. Our neighbors. Maybe Louis's customers. You wanted to keep this secret? Too late. You're cruel, she whispered. I'm cruel? I'm documenting the truth. You're the one who destroyed our marriage. You're the one who looked our daughter in the eyes every morning and then drove to another man. Don't you dare call me cruel. The following weeks were difficult. Lily moved in with her sister who lived on the other side of town. Megan didn't understand why Mommy wasn't living with us anymore, and it broke my heart. But I knew I could never trust Lily again. Every time I'd look at her, I'd see those photos. Every I love you would be filtered through the question, which love? The one you had for me or the one you have for him? I explained to Megan in simple terms. Sometimes grown-ups can't live together, but we both still love her very much. She cried. Asked if it was her fault. That question almost destroyed me. I held her and promised her it had nothing to do with her, that she was perfect, that both Mommy and Daddy loved her more than anything. A month later, I accidentally ran into Dennis near a coffee shop. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me, like he regretted taking my money. Hey man. I wanted to tell you, she and Louis don't show up together at the gym anymore. Really? Yeah. She comes alone, works out, and leaves. Louis still comes too, but they don't talk. They avoid each other actually. When one's on the treadmills, the other goes to the weights. It's awkward to watch. I nodded. Part of me felt satisfied. The affair had imploded just like I'd hoped. But another part of me just felt empty. What had any of this proven? That I could destroy her life like she destroyed mine? That revenge felt good? It didn't. It just felt necessary. I met up with Carolina when I was in San Diego for work. A local magazine wanted photos of the waterfront at sunset, and I needed the distraction. She told me she'd seen Lily at the same hotel but alone. She was sitting in the lobby staring out the window. Looked lost, Carolina said. I didn't approach her. Didn't know what to say. But I thought you should know. Maybe she was remembering. Or regretting. Hard to tell. I felt almost sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered those nights when she drove to Lewis while I stayed home with Megan, suspecting nothing. Those mornings when she kissed me goodbye with his scent probably still on her. The elaborate lies she must have constructed. The mental energy it must have taken to maintain 2 relationships. Did she ever feel guilty? Or was it all just exciting to her? The divorce concluded faster than I expected. We split the property, she got a portion, I got a portion. The house went to me since I had primary custody. Megan stayed with me on weekdays, spent weekends with her mother. We worked out a schedule through lawyers, barely speaking directly. Every interaction was painful, charged with things unsaid. One day, picking up Megan from Lily's sister's house, I asked the question that had been bothering me. What happened with Lewis? She looked away, focusing on anything but my face. We're not in touch anymore. When everything came out, he got uncomfortable. It wasn't fun anymore, I guess. The secrecy was part of it for him. When it became public, when there were real consequences, he disappeared. Blocked my number. Won't even acknowledge me at the gym. You loved him though, right? I don't know. Maybe I thought I did. But it wasn't the kind of love worth losing everything else for. I understand that now. Too late, but I understand it. Did he ever talk about leaving his girlfriend for you? Or was he single? He said he was single. But I found out later he has a girlfriend. He lied to both of us apparently. We were both just entertainment for him. The irony was almost funny. She destroyed our marriage for someone who'd been using her. But I felt no satisfaction in that. Just sadness for the whole situation. For Megan most of all. I took Megan and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see Lily standing by the door watching us leave. She looked smaller somehow. Diminished. The confident woman I'd married had been replaced by someone unsure, apologetic. But it was too late for apologies. Several more months passed. Life stabilized. Megan got used to the new schedule. I found a balance between work and parenting. I took fewer assignments, turned down jobs that required travel. My daughter needed stability and I'd give her that at least. Lily continued working at the laboratory. We communicated only about our daughter. Brief texts, logistical details. I'll pick her up at 6. She needs new shoes. There's a parent-teacher conference next Tuesday. No emotion, no history. Just practical necessities. I ran into Dennis again at a local grocery store. He seemed eager to talk, like he wanted absolution for his role in all this. Lewis sold his share in the dealership and moved to Fresno, he said, loading his groceries. They really don't see each other anymore. She still comes to the gym but less often. Looks like she's going through something, you know? I nodded. I didn't care about Lewis's whereabouts. He was a symptom, not the disease. The disease was whatever had made Lily think betraying her family was acceptable. Maybe she'd been unhappy in our marriage. Maybe I'd been too focused on work. Maybe there were 1,000 small failures on both our parts. But she'd chosen to handle it in the worst possible way. The hardest part was explaining to Megan why we weren't living together anymore. She kept asking if we'd be a family again. I said we'd always be her parents, that we loved her, but sometimes adults couldn't live together. She was too young to understand the full truth, and I wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. Let her believe in love a little longer. Lily tried to talk to me several times. She'd call late at night after Megan was asleep, her voice thick with tears. She asked for forgiveness, said she understood her mistake. But I couldn't. Every time I looked at her during our brief exchanges, I remembered those photos, those testimonies, those nights when she'd lied to my face without hesitation. Can we at least try counseling? She asked once. For Megan's sake? Counseling is for couples who want to fix their relationship. I don't want to fix this. I want to move forward without you. You're not even willing to try? After 4 years. You weren't willing to try staying faithful. Why should I try forgiving that? She had no answer for that. Trust. That's something you can't rebuild once it's shattered. especially when the person who'd experienced betrayal herself decided to do the same to someone else. The hypocrisy of it still amazed me. She'd cried on my shoulder about her ex-husband's affair, made me promise I'd never hurt her that way. And I'd kept that promise. But apparently her promises were conditional. I continued working as a photojournalist, capturing moments from other people's lives through a camera lens. The irony was that I hadn't noticed my own life falling apart until it was too late. But now at least I knew the truth. And that was better than living in a lie. Lily was left alone. Louis disappeared from her life as soon as everything came out. Turns out he needed the intrigue, the adrenaline of secret meetings, not a real relationship with all its consequences. She lost her family, her daughter's trust, which would grow as Megan got older and understood what happened, and a husband who really did love her. Past tense. I'd loved her completely, trusted her absolutely. That was gone now, irretrievable. I sometimes thought about whether all this was worth it. Whether it wouldn't have been better to just talk, try to understand what went wrong. But then I remembered her face at that hotel registration desk and Carolina's description. That happiness, that carefree attitude. And I understood that conversations wouldn't have changed anything. She'd made her choice knowing full well what she was doing. One Saturday afternoon, about 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Megan asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy smile anymore?" "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "When I'm with her, she looks sad. Even when we're doing fun things." Did I make her sad? My heart broke. No, baby. You could never make anyone sad. Grown-ups sometimes go through hard times. It's not your fault. It's never your fault. But I knew why Lily wasn't smiling. She was living with the consequences of her choices. Everyone in Bakersfield had seen that billboard before I took it down after 2 weeks. Her coworkers knew. Our friends had chosen sides. Her family was disappointed in her. And she had to face that reality every single day. While I got to be the victim, the wronged husband, she became the villain in everyone's story. Sometimes I wondered if I'd been too harsh with the billboard. But then I remembered all the lies, all the time she'd come home and acted like nothing was wrong. She'd had months to come clean, to admit what she was doing, to give me a choice. Instead, she'd kept lying until she got caught. The billboard was just making public what she'd done in private. Truth isn't cruelty. A year after everything happened, I was covering a charity event downtown when I saw Louis. He was with a different woman now, laughing at something on his phone. He didn't notice me, or if he did, he didn't recognize me. Why would he? We'd never formally met. I was just another customer who'd looked at cars and walked away. I could have confronted him, asked him why he thought it was okay to sleep with someone's wife. But what would be the point? He was who he was. Some people don't respect boundaries, don't care about collateral damage. Lily had chosen to get involved with someone like that. That said more about her judgment than anything else. Megan adjusted better than I expected. Kids are resilient. She had her routine, her friends, her school. She loved both her parents, even if we weren't together. Sometimes I caught her looking at old photos of the three of us, and I knew she was trying to understand what had changed. One day she'd be old enough for the full truth. But not yet. The house felt different now. Emptier, even with Megan's toys scattered everywhere. I'd redecorated, tried to make it feel like a fresh start. But some rooms still held memories. The kitchen where Lily used to cook Sunday dinners. The bedroom where we'd planned our future. The backyard where we talked about maybe getting a dog someday. All those plans dissolved. I dated a little, though nothing serious. It was hard to trust anyone after what happened. I found myself analyzing every woman I met, looking for signs of dishonesty. It wasn't fair to them, but I couldn't help it. Trauma changes you. Makes you cautious where you used to be open. Carolina checked in regularly. She felt guilty about being the messenger, even though I told her repeatedly I was grateful she'd told me. "You did the right thing," I assured her. "I needed to know." Still. "I ended your marriage." "No. Lily ended my marriage. You just informed me it was already over." Through mutual friends, I heard that Lily had started therapy. Good for her, I thought. Maybe she'd figure out why she'd sabotaged a good thing. Maybe she'd be better in her next relationship. That wasn't my concern anymore. The strangest part was how mundane everything became. The dramatic confrontation, the divorce, the billboard, all of it eventually just became past events. Life moved on. Megan grew. I worked. Seasons changed. The intensity of anger and betrayal faded into something more like resigned disappointment. I learned to forgive her, eventually. Not for her sake, but for mine. Carrying that anger was exhausting. But forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. It just meant I could think about what happened without feeling like I was being stabbed. She'd made terrible choices. I'd made the choice to walk away. Both were final. 2 years after the divorce, Megan asked if Mommy would ever come back home. No, sweetheart. Mommy and Daddy are better as friends. We both love you, but we don't live together anymore. Okay, she said simply and went back to coloring. Kids accept what they're given. They adapt. I hoped that wouldn't hurt her in the long run, that she'd still believe in healthy relationships despite witnessing ours fall apart. Lily sent me a letter once about a year and a half after everything. She didn't expect me to read it, she said, but she needed to write it. She apologized again, explained that she'd been feeling lost and unappreciated, that Lewis had made her feel seen. The same tired excuses every cheater uses. She took full responsibility, she said, but then spent 3 pages explaining all the reasons she'd felt justified at the time. I read it once and filed it away. Maybe someday Megan would want to know her mother's perspective. Or maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my story to tell or hide. The truth was, our marriage had probably been struggling before Lewis appeared. I'd been busy with work, always chasing the next assignment. She'd been tired from the lab and taking care of Megan. We'd stopped really talking, stopped being curious about each other. But those problems could have been fixed with communication, with effort. Instead, she'd chosen the easy dopamine hit of a new relationship. And that choice cost us everything. I never remarried. Came close once with a teacher named Jenna I'd met at Megan's school. But I couldn't fully commit, couldn't trust completely. She deserved better than someone who was still carrying damage from the past. We ended things amicably. Megan thrived. She was smart, funny, kind. She loved photography like her dad, always asking to borrow my old cameras. I taught her composition, lighting, how to capture a moment. She had a good eye. Maybe she'd follow in my footsteps. When she turned 8, she asked me directly, "Why did you and Mom divorce?" I took a breath. "Your mom made some choices that hurt our relationship. We both tried, but sometimes things can't be fixed." Did she do something bad? She did something that broke my trust. And trust is really important in a marriage. Do you hate her? No, sweetie. I don't hate her. I'm disappointed in choices she made, but I don't hate her. She's your mom and she loves you very much. That seemed to satisfy her. For now. Looking back on everything, I realized that the affair itself hurt less than the lying. If Lily had come to me and said she was unhappy, that she'd met someone else, it would have been devastating. But at least it would have been honest. Instead, she'd chosen deception. Months of looking me in the eye and lying. That was the part one couldn't forgive. The billboard, the evidence gathering, the calculated way I'd protected my assets. Some people thought I'd been cold. Maybe I had been. But betrayal makes you strategic. You stop leading with your heart and start thinking with your head. Survival instinct. Lewis remained a ghost in the story. I never spoke to him, never confronted him. He'd moved to Fresno, apparently started over. Good riddance. He was a coward who preyed on married women and then disappeared when consequences arrived. Lily had terrible taste in affair partners. At least there was that. The years continued to pass. Megan grew into a teenager. Lily and I maintained our civil but distant relationship. We attended school events together, sat on opposite sides of the auditorium. We coordinated holidays. We did what divorced parents do. She never remarried either, I heard. Dated occasionally but nothing serious. Maybe her own betrayal had broken something in her too. Or maybe she was just focused on being a better mother than she'd been a wife. I hoped it was the latter. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.